Hello, everyone. Great to have everybody here today. I'm excited to present to you a little bit more on our SDS2 load planning here. We've had a lot of interest in the load planning. Just a lot of people asking a lot of different questions on load planning. I know we've done some webinars in the past on this, so I'm just going to keep expanding on load planning a little bit. We've made some great enhancements to that recently that we'll see here today as well. So should be a good webinar. We do have a Q&A panel within the On24 platform that we're using here to present to you guys today. So please, if you have questions, go ahead and use that Q&A panel to ask those questions. I will hold the questions till the end of the presentation here today, and then I will answer those questions to the best of my ability at the end here. So with that, let's hop into things here. So first, just quick introduction of myself here presenting. So I've been with SDS2 here for quite a number of years, a number of different roles, and recently here I've been transitioning over to our detailing fabricating product manager for SDS2. So a little bit about the agenda or the content that we'll have today here. So we'll talk about creating our load plans from different IFC models, how we can import just one IFC model into SDS2 load planning, or we can even do multiples, and I'll show you both ways how that works. Talk a little bit about how we can plan our loads to minimize the congestion at the site, so especially on those sites where we've got minimal space for a laydown area, or even if we're having to erect right directly off the trailers. We'll kind of talk a little bit about how you can accomplish and plan out a lot better using SDS2 load planning than maybe you've been able to in the past. I'll show you a little bit on our Tekla PowerFab integration that we've worked on. We have a direct integration now with Tekla PowerFab to kind of do a bidirectional link and update with them. And then we'll show you a little bit how you might be able to utilize SDS2 load planning to collaborate with other project partners in Bimplus. So this is going to be really great to visualize, where your loads are within the structure and what assemblies are on what trailers exactly. So pretty neat stuff that we got there. So just to expand on those topics a little bit more, so SDS2 load planning will take any IFC 2x3 or IFC 4 model. That means we can work with SDS2 itself for detailing, whether you're using, Tekla structures to do your detailing, SolidWorks, any number of different softwares that produce an IFC file and include their weight with that IFC file, we should be able to use. So a couple things to note there, we don't have to bring in the whole structure at once. Some of you are working on larger structures or projects where you're probably releasing certain portions of that model at a time. So you're able to export an IFC file of just what you're releasing, just what needs to be planned out. And then we can combine the different IFC models into one project within SDS2 load planning. Again, that weight is important. Like I mentioned on there, load planning will use the weight from the IFC model. So it's kind of up to that authoring software, typically the detailing software, to ensure that the weight is correct and gets transferred in that IFC correct. So important, because as we do create our loads, develop our load plans, we're using that to make sure that we fall under the capacity of our trailers. We're not going overweight on our loads. So talking a little bit about planning loads to minimize the congestion at the site. So, typically you're going to have erector sequences, erector orders. We can take advantage of that, use that to determine the loads. It could be something as simple as, hey, we're going to load the first erection sequence and that's going to show up to the site first. It could be as complex as reverse loading the trailer so that you can pull right up erect directly off that trailer in those really congested sites, whether you're downtown Chicago, New York, wherever you're doing this at. So, and then you can even use the loads to determine fabrication order. So I go to a lot of different fabrication shops, been a lot of different places in my time here. And, you know, a lot of fab shops are doing a lot of material handling, and they're handling these things 2, 3, sometimes even 4 or 5 times after the assemblies are fabricated, because they'll take the steel, put it in a lay down yard, then they go find it again, then they bring it over and throw it in a pile and kind of visualize stuff before they handle it again to get it up on a trailer. So if we can use this to determine your fabrication order, put it right on a trailer, and away you go, that just reduces that material handling so much. Talk about Tekla PowerFab integration. So this is a direct link that we have to Tekla PowerFab now, kind of bi-directional. So the way this is going to work, when you're going, when you refresh this link to your project, your SDS2 Load Planning project, Tekla PowerFab is going to update SDS2 Load Planning by adding the approval status and lot numbers, if they exist, to the load planning properties. And then you can start using those as filters to determine your loading order within SDS2 Load Planning. And then the other direction, SDS2 Load Planning updating Tekla PowerFab, we're going to create trailers in there, and it's going to show you the correct assemblies that are on those trailers. We will not update trailers that were created in Tekla PowerFab. Kind of the workflow that this is going to be to, you know, utilize SDS2 Load Planning to kind of be the central source of truth for your loads, and then push that information to Tekla PowerFab to be utilized within there. I don't have a direct link myself with Tekla PowerFab. So what I've done here is I've gotten a little video ahead of time to kind of demonstrate what this looks like, and I'll talk through this video for us here. Should be able to see our video coming up here. So, you know, under our preferences, you'll see the PowerFab settings, and we can punch in the appropriate IP address, port, and then our username and password here for our login credentials to Tekla PowerFab. Probably want to run a test of the connection, make sure everything's punched in there right and it's working correct. We'll give confirmation on that. This particular part is just showing you right now that within the properties of SDS2 Load Planning, there's nothing that shows the Tekla PowerFab info in there yet. Here on the PowerFab side, we see the approval status, shipping routes, lot numbers, and we hit a refresh button there. So that's going to go through, refresh that. We're going to get a list of the PowerFab production control jobs. So we pick the one we want to refresh and update. And then we can view, we do keep a log of this information that's been updated. And this log can get fairly extensive. There's a ton of information that we try to keep in there to make sure that that information is tracked properly. So if you do open that, you can see here, it's just a basic text file of where we're at, you know, how we're connecting to that, what's being updated. So you do have that ability to view that log. And then if we hit the properties here again, what we'll see is that Tekla PowerFab, the approval status, the lot number comes through. We can view those properties and the values of those within load planning here. Can see we can use that as filters to narrow down that model, and then use that information to kind of more accurately create our loads, or, you know, determine what needs to be loaded first to get to the site for us. So here we see just have a trailer there, and when you run that refresh, if you look at your loads, you're going to see your loads, you're going to see the assemblies. I just had 2 there on that particular load, but that gives us the idea of how we're actually updating that information. So that's the Tekla PowerFab integration. And then what we're going to look at here a little bit is Bimplus. So I'll plan Bimplus is it's a browser-based collaboration tool. In its simplest form. That's the way I would describe that. Brings in IFC files, has direct links to different softwares and such. But we're going to be able to take our load planning model and loads in there, upload there, and then we can use filters to color code based on different properties. We can identify things easily based on what load it's on, the life cycle, whether it's been, in the staging process, whether it's actually been loaded, whether it's on a completed or a shipped trailer. And then we'll be able to connect the assemblies in the structural model to see exactly which trailer they're on and what location they're on in the trailer. And I'll show you a little live demo of that here after a bit. So with that, I'm gonna share my screen here, and I'm gonna kind of walk through a couple different things here. So first thing I want to do is I want to open load planning, and within SDS2 load planning, so I talked about a couple different ways of bringing in IFC files. I talked about how you could split it up into smaller portions of the model and such. So kind of going to walk through two different methods of doing things here. So the first method would be, to import one IFC file of the whole structure, and then you can start building your loads based on that. So I've already got a little bit larger model imported here. You can see over here, some things have already been loaded. So this is kind of what we call our staging view. And if I flip over to my loading view, I can see some different trailers that I already have set up in here, right? So I want to start one from scratch, and how might we take advantage of load planning to either do kind of reverse fabrication planning, where we plan our fabrication out based on when it comes out and is fabbed and finished, that then it goes right on the trailer, or congestion at the site. Okay, this could really work in both situations. So remember, there's a ton of properties that are attached to these IFC files and that come in with that. So as soon as I pick an item in there, I'm going to get this properties panel over here, and I can view all these different properties that we have in here. So, it could be as simple as the sequence, which is what I'll use here. So I add a filter for sequence 2, and it just narrows this view down for me, right? So now amongst sequence 2, I probably know, well, columns got to get out first and get to the site first, right? So let's go ahead and make sure we're loading that stuff and fabricating that stuff, getting that stuff to the site first. Can narrow it down even further if you want. I'll do something simple here. And then I add that to my staging list. So that makes them transparent here in this model so that I don't get things loaded up twice. You'll see they get added to the staging list on the left, and then I just hit S on my keyboard. That flips over to our loading view. And I won't spend a ton of time discussing this. So what I'll do here, I'll create a new trailer, and I pick the trailer that I want here. We do have another screen set up where you set up all these different trailers, punch in their length, their width, their capacity, all that information that's going to be critical to your trailer. And then I just reuse those trailers over and over again. So I pick that trailer, different options for overhang and such. And then it's a matter of really, you're playing Tetris here. So we can roll things around, flip them in for end, all that stuff. Kind of have what I call a semi-auto load, where I hit A on my keyboard, and it's going to find a spot for those to be loaded up. So one of the things to take note of here, newer feature that we've added recently, when I do have some clashes going on. So you'll see here, when I have those two that are interfering there, we get that big green box around there. So that box is kind of just a box that shows us where different things are interfering with one another. You know, if it's more something like that, where just that plate is interfering, we're going to see that smaller green box just at the location where they're interfering. So something to help out visualize how your loads are going to come together here, how they're going to be built. So, and then I can come in here, I can fine tune this stuff. So a number of different ways you can do it. Everybody has a different method, it seems. So, you know, we can do different things. When I hit spacebar, you see it just kind of snaps those things together nice, so that finds the closest loadable and snaps it together. I kind of want them spread apart here for what I'm going to do, so I'll just manually place these up here. If you hadn't figured it out by now, you know, red is bad. Red means there's a clash, can't be loaded for some reason or another. Green is good. Green, it can be placed in that location, no clashes or anything like that. So, you know, we can add new dunnage layers then. Okay, so add another dunnage layer, come back to the model, start grabbing more of my columns. I might grab these two columns here. I'm not going to worry about the little stuff or even that big one, right? I think this big column here, that's going to take up half a load on its own there. So I'm not going to be too worried about this for this demonstration. Okay, and then we do have a auto load all that's in the staging list option. So keep in mind, if I'm using these filters over here and I'm creating this staging list and keeping the staging list really small, that this auto place all can work, but it's very rudimentary, so you're typically not going to grab a whole sequence or a whole job and have it just magically load the trailers. There's not a magic bullet at this point in time, but that auto place all does work very good in small doses, like I showed you there with those columns just now. So then maybe, you know, I want to move on to some of the different stuff here. So I could adjust my filters here again. Maybe I want to focus in on beams at this point. So I can change that filter over here to beams. Again, make something for the different height. Okay, grab more here, add to my staging list, start adding these here. Again, take note, when there's a clash, you get that green box, so that's a good indication we have some issues going on there. Can roll things around. Oh, can't find a place for that one. I will rotate it end for end. So just to give you an idea, why did rotating that end for end work, but it didn't in the other case? Well, we can really start investigating some of this stuff in here, and I can even clip this view. So if I look, you probably noticed when I added to the staging view over there in the model, we had some outriggers on these, right? So those are up towards the top. If I rotate it end for end and give you an idea, so when I have it flipped this way, you can see that green box indicates to us there's some clashes there with something down below on that lower layer. Again, rotate them end for end. We can see we've got that where we can fit now. So you can imagine doing this virtually, how fast I can do that and figure these things out, how these pieces fit together, versus if you're doing that out, you know, in the shop, in the yard, wherever you might be doing that, your guys are out there moving heavy steel, you're flipping heavy steel, you're rotating, trying to figure out how it fits together. This is so much safer, so much easier, faster, quicker to figure that out here virtually, and then hand the information off to your guys. They know exactly how it has to come together, pick it up once, place it as the plan shows, and they're done. So just, yeah, a lot of benefit here to being able to do this right here on a screen versus out in the shop. So I can keep loading this then. So do another Do another dunnage layer here. We have indicated up here the weight of our trailers, the capacity, what's currently on there. So you can see we've got some room left. And I think a lot of what's left here is kind of some bullseye beams, some simple type of stuff. So I'm going to grab some of these. I don't want all of those, again, talking about what needs to show up on site first, or what do I need to fabricate first. I clipped this view based on what I picked, so those are the lower level beams, right? Those are going to be needing to be erected first or fabricated first. So, I can clip that view, figure out what needs to go first on these first loads. Okay, and then for these, I'm going to try the auto place all again. It stops when it gets to the capacity of your trailer. I could manually load something and go over capacity, but I don't want to do that in this case. So again, auto place all I talked about works great in small doses. Even in just that little bit larger, you can see not perfect here. We wouldn't want to load our trailer like that, so I'll do some adjustments on my own here. So I'll drag that over. I hit space. Remember, I hit space bar. It snaps to the nearest one for me. Okay, so I get all 3 of those, or all 5 of those kind of lined up here, and I ought to be able to grab them all at once, drag them all at once, and maybe I want to push those up towards the front. You can see my center of gravity down below there. That adjusts on the fly as I'm loading this stuff, so we get an idea of where the center of gravity is going to be at on our trailer as well. So, okay, and you come in, adjust your dunnage layer to get something that looks a little bit like that. So pretty good looking trailer, not bad. Let's show you a couple other things here then. So something I get asked a lot about is, well, we bundle stuff up. We have crates of miscellaneous pieces, things like that. So great example of one of the newer enhancements we've made to load planning here is with angles. Okay, so a lot of you guys want to bundle your angles, especially those maybe loose angles where there's nothing attached to them. They're just loose. You bundle them up, strap them together, throw them on as kind of one piece onto that trailer. I do have in this model, so you can see over here, everything that's transparent and that I can't select here, that's already been loaded on a trailer. So most of the stairs, handrails, they were loaded on this first trailer that I showed you here earlier. I got plenty of room up front here for some miscellaneous stuff. I've got plenty of capacity on that trailer, so I'm going to bundle up some loose angles and place on there. So over on this side of the building, it's a different sequence, so I'm going to do a new filter in here. Or I could come up here, I could just adjust my sequence filter that I have up here as well. So I believe it's sequence 6 if I remember right. Okay, I was correct, lucked out. So I adjust that filter. There are some loose angles in here. And let's see. There we go. So if I grab those, you're going to notice we have a material type in here in our properties. So again, I can use that material type as a filter. Gets rid of everything, right? Filters that down. So I actually want to show you, there's kind of 2 methods that we have to do the auto stacking of the angles. So I'm gonna grab this first group up here. I'm gonna show you one way of auto stacking, and then I'll do another with this bottom group of angles. So I grab those angles, I do an auto stack. So I'm gonna do a single stack. It tells me the size that I picked, the quantity, and then I can adjust, how many of these angles do I want per bundle, right? So it's gonna bundle. In this case, it's going to bundle 10 together at a time. And then you'll notice we get information over here in our staging list. And let me remove some of these others that I did have in there. I don't want those in there right now, so I'll remove those. I flip over to the staging view, or excuse me, loading view. And you can see what I have now over here in my tree, my list of trailers and my bundles. I have 3 bundles that were created now, right? So what it does is it grabs those angles, takes them, bundles them up together, and creates kind of one bundle all together. Now, when it gets to a point where the number of angles in there reaches the number of angles that I had specified, it sets that to a completed state, and that's why we see 2 of them over here in our staging list. When it only contains less than that max number, it still keeps it in the loading phase and doesn't add it to the staging list. I can come in here, I can set that to my to completed, and then it gets added to the staging list. But in this particular case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that up there in the loading phase. And then I can place those on my trailer now, right? So see how they're just one bundle now, so it's not individual pieces that I'm dragging around. They're all bundled up together here. So I can throw those down here, get these over here, and everything about them kind of works the same as loading the other stuff did, but they're just kind of acting as one piece now. So the second way we can do this, if I grab some more of these loose angles, I think this one down here, yeah, that's not necessarily a loose angle, that's an assembly in itself, so I don't want that one. Okay, I'm going to do the auto stack again. This time, I'm going to do our herringbone pattern. So this is going to stack these a little bit differently than that. Everybody likes to do things differently, so got to have an option to do a herringbone pattern. And what that looks like when I look at my bundles. Okay, let's take a look here. So this is going to stack those a little bit differently. So you can see how we've got, multiple stacked here, and then they're kind of flip-flopped in a herringbone type pattern all the way up there. So just different ways of doing things. Like I said, everybody likes to do things differently. So, and again, it didn't reach the max number of pieces there, so it's still in the loading phase, but I'm going to go ahead and set both of those to completed now. And again, just a matter of coming over here to my trailer, loading those up on my trailer. And let's do this one first. Okay, throw that one on there, then I get those that are stacked in that herringbone pattern on there. So get all that info placed on there. So then, once your trailers are completed, how do we get this out to the shop? How do we communicate this with everybody else? There's different ways of doing this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a couple different exports here. So for my loads, I'm just going to go ahead with this first trailer up here just to make it easy. Different exports that we have, we can send to Strumis, we can do IFC files. In this case, I'm going to do what we call a load map, and I'm going to export that. Let's just go ahead and export that to our desktop just to make it easy on myself. So I'll call it LM. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a bill of lading. I'm going to do that in a PDF format. And let's do BOL. I have another one on there, so let's give it today's date just to differentiate from those. And okay, so there's my LM, there's my bill of lading, and let's go ahead and just open those both with Bluebeam. And what we're going to see here is, so first off, we see our load map. So what we get here is we get one layer per dunnage layer, or excuse me, I should say 1 page per dunnage layer. We get our plan view, we get our ISO view, piece marks indicated on there. Up in the corner here, we get called out layer 1, tells us how thick that dunnage is. So again, trying to help those guys out that are building these loads, right? So they don't have to sit there and figure out how thick do I need this dunnage. They look at this and they know, okay, 4-inch dunnage here, let's throw it down and let's go. Okay. So then each page is going to be for another layer. So I had ended up with 3 layers on that trailer. And then what we get in the end is we get, you know, our center of gravity, dimensions out where that's at, our axles, where the center of gravity is at in the plan view for us as well. And then you can combine that with our load map, or excuse me, our bill of lading for that list. So what's great about this bill of lading versus what you might get otherwise is it sorts this bill of lading by the dunnage layer. So we know these 3 top pieces are going to go on layer 1, then we got to collect for layer 2, then we go for layer 3. So again, just kind of taking out some of the thinking and figuring out that those guys out in the yard have to do typically. Try to make it easy on them. So again, you know, use that sequence, use that the filtering and such to kind of do reverse loading on those trailers. And then, you know, what I did here in this first example was I just brought the whole model in and I used the filtering a lot to filter down and figure out where those things are and what to do with that. The second method you can do, like I said, you don't have to create an entire model. You don't have to bring that model in all as one. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a new project. Let me actually save a copy of this particular project off, just so I have it safe here. Okay, so I'll save that off, and then I'm going to create a new project. So what I'm going to do with this new project, I'm going to hop over to SDS2 and kind of show you guys what I might do in here. So I just have real basic, pretty simple model in here. Could be some sort of industrial platform or whatever. But what I have done is I've set this up and sequenced it out a little bit, right? So if I use my status display and set up a status display to show us the sequences. So sequence 1 will be cyan, and then I'll do sequence 2, I'm going to do that magenta. Sequence 3, I'm going to go with a royal color. And then for the stairs and rails, I'm going to do that in a orange color. Okay, so just want to color code the model for you guys, give you a visual cyan in that sequence 1, then we got sequence 2, sequence 3, and then stairs and rails. We're in another sequence called stairs and rails. So what I can do here is when you're in SDS2, I can run what we call a status select. So it's the same interface as that status display, but what it's going to do is it's going to let me set up to select members when they're sequenced 1 to 1. And notice it goes ahead, selects all the columns and the anchor bolts that I had set up in sequence 1. And then I can run my load planning export here. So this creates the IFC files with the right options, kind of preps it the way that load planning would want to consume those files. So I'm going to call this sequence 1. IFC. Okay, and then I can run my status select again and change my sequence to 2, grab sequence 2 for me, run this export again. So this, I'll do sequence 2, sequence 2.ifc. Okay, run my status select again on sequence 3. There we go. Load planning export, sequence 3. And finally, one last time here, status select, select all my stairs rails. Got those. And then I can do the export one last time here. I'll call it stairs rails.ifc. Okay, so I've got 4 different IFC files now, right? So back in load planning, let's start bringing these in. So I can go ahead and do a file, import IFC, import the IFC file name, and if I can find where those went, they should have gone here into my 2022 output, and there we go. We got sequence 1. Okay, I can give it a model name. I'm just going to stick with sequence 1. So there we go. We have just those items in sequence 1. And, you know, maybe I want to start here by loading sequence 1 and ship that out. I can start doing that right from here. So, you know what? I want to bundle up, kind of create a pallet or crate, whatever, of my anchor rods. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my filters for just secondary. I'm going to grab those. I'm going to tell it to add these to a fixed bundle, create a new bundle. Let's call it anchor rods. Shape is fine, rectangular is fine. My weight, we don't automatically fill out the weight. Down here in the bottom left, it does tell me the weights that of the items I have selected, so I can take advantage of that in this case, say 423, or if I just want to round up, I can do that as well. And that creates a bundle very similar to the way it did for the angles, except for in this case, it's a generic shape, either a rectangular shape or a cylinder shape. And then the list is just going to tell us what's in that generic bundle. Okay. And then I can come grab my columns, add those to my staging list, and then I can add my trailer, start adding everything to my trailer as I just showed you here previously within that other project. So I do think this dunnage layer is probably a bit small. Okay, so I probably want to increase that a bit, some decent sized base plates on there. So let me get rid of that. Let me remove that dunnage layer. I'm just going to add something like, let's go 7 inches. Add my dunnage layer. Okay. And there we go. Then we can start loading those up. Probably wouldn't be stacking them clear in the back or overhanging them. That's okay. And then, you know, if you want to kind of, if you lace those together, or however you do it, you know, it's just a matter of iterative process here. Start stacking those all together. I could probably even try my auto place all, see what happens, and then start making adjustments from there. That bundle that I created of my anchor rods, I can go ahead and complete that, get that over here. Whoops, go to my trailer, add it here, right? So start loading up. Of course, I'm not going to load those the way that I have them loaded there. That's not a great load. I would want to come in, start making some adjustments, moving things probably tighter to the center of that trailer and get it a bit more balanced, a bit safer load than that. But we get the idea of how we're loading. So then we get sequence 1 on there. We can ship that trailer out, and then we got to bring in the rest of our building, right? So I just run my import IFC file again. Okay, and I go with sequence 2. Gives it a model name, sequence 2. Okay, there we go. Updates that model. So now I have them combined in here, even though I didn't export them all as one IFC file. So then I could come in here, just go ahead and I'll finish that off. Sequence 3, we get sequence 3, and then another import, final import here of the stairs and rails. Okay, so we would do that, you know, like I said, to be able to combine models and things. And it could be 2 separate buildings as well, right? I mean, you might have separate buildings doing the same project, but they're you know, considered the same project. They don't have to be fully combined here. They could be separate projects as well that are going out on the same trailers also. So that's kind of the 2 ways you might go about bringing your models in here and kind of doing the reverse loading type of stuff. So first I showed you on that bigger structure where I really took advantage of the filters. The second method, I let the authoring software kind of give me small doses and then combine the model in here as we load. So that's how we might do those things and figure that information out. Now, final part of all of this is collaborating with your project partners, right? So you can share those PDF files. I showed you the load map. That's great to share with project partners so everybody knows how they're going to be loaded. You can also get 3D information out. So I showed you in the exports doing a load map, or excuse me, that we can do IFC loads and IFC model. So loads is going to export your trailers. Model is going to export the model as an IFC file from load planning here. And then what we can do with that, what I like to show you here is I am, well, I probably got to refresh my model here maybe. I've had this open, it's been sitting here waiting. And I'm going to guess the webinar platform is going to mess with me a little bit here. So let me make sure that I can get this done correct. Let me just reload here. Yep. And the webinar platform is definitely going to mess with me. So should have made a video of this ahead of time. Might have to do this afterwards here, but let me see if I can go a different route. Let me see if I can share this a different way with you guys. Bear with me. Apologize here for the technical difficulties. Yep, so my webinar platform is gonna mess with me. We'll put out a video of this separately so we can visualize this. Really, the idea is, you know, similar to the way that I color coded the SDS2 model, we'd be able to upload our IFC files to our online collaboration platform. Any of our project partners can be invited to that. It's just browser based, so they don't have to have anything additional installed to view that. And then what you can do is link, set up a filter so it color codes the piece in the structure to the piece in the trailer, the exact same color, and then we can kind of connect the dots of, okay, this piece in this structure showed up on this trailer. It's very, very slick. On24 web platform sometimes gives me troubles, and that's what's happening here, so I apologize for that. And that's kind of what we have here for you guys today. I just want to send a big thank you before I hop into the questions and answers. You know, I know everybody's busy, so I really appreciate everybody's time here. I do have a couple polls here, so I am curious on what you guys are doing for a load planning solution today. So are you using SDS2 load planning already? Are you just doing a flat load list where you take, you know, add up trailer or assembly weights till you get to trailer capacity, and then you're giving a flat list? Do you have another solution that I don't know of? So yeah, kind of curious on what you're doing there. Okay, give everybody kind of a minute to answer that poll. And let's go ahead and we'll hop to the results of that. Hopefully Hopefully everybody kind of got to that. And let's see. So, yep, looks like most of you are just using a flat load list or some other solution. I'd be curious to hear from you what your other solution is, if it is one. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe you're just loading until the trailer's full. Yeah, I'd love to hear from people on that. So for those of you using a flat load list, I got to assume that you guys have a lot of revisions and such. That's one of the really common complaints that I hear about them flat load lists is, yeah, it doesn't take the 3D geometry into account like we can with load planning. So those are constantly revised, and that just, you know, pushes back and back and back into the other load lists. So second poll that I have here. So what would be the most important benefits of a load planning solution to you? So, you know, would you be looking mostly to reduce the time loading trailers, reduce material handling? You know, are you looking for something more to plan your fabrication around the loads? Are you looking for something to solve the site congestion problem and plan loads for site congestion? Is it more coordinating with partners benefit that's important to you? Or again, is there something else that you have in mind that you're really interested in here? As you answer this last poll question, I'm going to take a look at some of the poll questions. So, or excuse me, not poll questions, the Q&A that you guys put in here. So, yeah, so somebody's looking for a interface to make shipping labels. We don't do the shipping labels themselves. You know, I know that we do work with other partners. So, you know, P2 programs, InfoSite, those guys, we work with all of those guys to kind of do the shipping label stuff. They, you know, P2's got the barcoding, things like that as well. I know Strumis is another partner of ours that we work with and interface with that has a barcoding and shipping label solution. So, yeah, great question about, you know, scanning a load to determine if it matches the load planning model. Right now, that's a manual check. QC check. We don't have anything that, you know, would automate that process. That's a manual check today. So, yeah, and then some of these, you know, are maybe future requests again. I don't necessarily want to get into future requests or anything like that you might have if you're already been looking at the software, but if you do have those future requests, please reach out to me, shoot me an email or whatever. Love to hear from you, get different ideas from everybody. So questions are coming in fairly slow here. You know, what are the most important benefits to you? So looks like a lot of you are looking to more plan your fabrication around the loading. So that's interesting. That's great. Reduce material handling. That's always a big one. You know, one of the sayings in steel fabrication is we're not in the fabrication business, we're in the material handling business. So anytime you can reduce that is outstanding. And then reduce time loading trailers. So that's great. And, you know, we've had every fabricator I'm aware of that has implemented load planning in their processes, they've accomplished all three of these things that you guys are answering on the poll here. So we definitely can improve the process for you in all three of those areas. Confident of that. So yeah, it looks like yeah, I've answered every question. The rest are kind of you know, future request type of stuff. So please, again, email those to me. I'll take care of those. And just want to give everybody a big thank you again. I appreciate your time, and yeah, love to hear from you. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.